James Sunderland arrives at the edge of Silent Hill in a foggy dawn, drawn by a letter in his dead wife's handwriting. The letter tells him, "I'm alone here now, in our special place, waiting for you." A promise that Mary Shepherd Sunderland, who died 3 years earlier, awaits James. James clings to hope at first. He remembers Mary begging him to take her to this town in happier days, and he convinces himself that something might still be possible. Yet his own voice betrays doubt. A dead person can't write a letter, he admits, recalling Mary's death from illness. Deep inside, James battles grief and guilt. According to Silent Hill lore, he has been deep in grief and depression over Mary's death and convinced that she died as a result of her illness, refusing to accept his own role in her end. In this mist-shrouded town, reality blurs. As he steps into the decay, James's very mind is about to be tested. Within minutes of entering Silent Hill, James senses something is terribly wrong. The once beautiful vacation town Mary loved now lies abandoned under an otherworldly fog. Streets and buildings are rotting. Grotesque, vaguely humanoid monsters roam freely. These nightmarish visions reflect James's tormented psyche. Early on, he meets Angela Orozco, a terrified girl in search of her mother. Their brief encounter highlights James's disbelief. She warns him of the town's horrors, but he brushes it off with uneasy denial. In reality, James has been living with a dreadful secret. Silent Hill and its creatures manifest his guilt and grief. As the plot will reveal, every twisted monster and echoing whisper stems from James's subconscious punishment. By the time he reaches Rosewater Park, the lakeside spot he and Mary once cherished, James is being dragged deeper into his own mind. At Rosewater Park, James meets Maria, a seductive young woman who looks strikingly like Mary, but with blonde hair and a provocative attitude. Maria flirts with James, seemingly knowing intimate details only he and Mary would, blurring the line between fantasy and reality. As they set off together, it becomes clear Maria is more than a helpful stranger. She represents James's desperate hope and confusion. Over the course of their journey, Maria becomes a companion who nurses James's wounded psyche. When monsters attack Maria, James instinctively defends her. He learns not to hurt her, sometimes even shielding her from his own weapon's recoil, as though preserving Mary's memory through a different person. Each time James comforts or protects Maria, his subconscious surrenders more to her influence. Conversely, focusing on Maria means drifting away from his guilt and Mary's memory. The game's mechanics underscore this. To trigger the Maria ending, James must show a lot of attention and comfort towards Maria and spend time with her, bonding with her instead of clinging to Mary. Narratively, Narratively, Maria embodies James's suppressed desire to replace Mary and escape his guilt. But this is a false path, one that will ultimately leave him without confronting the truth. Another major figure on James's path is Laura, an innocent 8-year-old who knew Mary and bears a copy of Mary's letter. Laura's presence is unsettling to James. She roams Silent Hill seemingly unfazed by the monsters and clings to a picture of Mary, believing Mary is alive and well. Whenever James questions her, Laura is cryptic or defensive. Later in the Lakeview Hotel, Laura reveals that Mary wanted to adopt her and even celebrated her last birthday. Laura's innocence contrasts sharply with James's tormented mind. She trusts Mary completely and accuses James of wrongdoing when she learns the truth. In a key confrontation, Laura shouts at James, "You killed her," and rails at him for causing Mary's death. Laura's rage and betrayal force James to face what he's suppressed. But in the leave ending, he ultimately acknowledges the truth and apologizes. Throughout the story, Laura functions as James's conscience and proxy for Mary's perspective. She pushes him, often with anger, to admit what he has hidden. James also encounters others in Silent Hill whose personal tragedies echo his own guilt. Eddie Dombrowski, a bullied youth who has snapped, and Angela, an abuse survivor haunted by her past. When James finally enters the historical society and labyrinth, newspaper clippings reveal their backstories, not as James's victims, but as fellow souls drawn to Silent Hill for redemption. Crucially, it is here James learns an important truth. The letter from Mary that summoned him turns blank, showing it was never real. The revelation that he alone created the letter in his mind marks the beginning of his awakening. He then discovers the videotape he once recorded. In it, Mary lies dying, and James smothers her with a pillow. The footage confirms James's unspoken truth. He killed Mary, albeit to end her suffering. With that knowledge, all illusions collapse. Finally, James realizes the town itself is a manifestation of his guilt. Two pyramid head creatures, the executioners of his subconscious, appear to punish him for his sins. After James fights them, they even commit ritual suicide, indicating their duty is complete. Psychological symbolism. Silent Hill's symbolism reflects James's inner world. The monsters he fights are phantasms of his buried guilt and pain. For example, the nurse enemies, grotesque, sexualized figures, emerge when James is in hospitals and brothels, suggesting his subconscious turmoil about Mary's illness and his conflicted feelings toward her dependency. Maria herself is a phantom shaped like Mary. She transforms to become Mary's pain, the final boss, as James approaches the truth. Pyramid Head, meanwhile, wears the metal helmet. In many interpretations, Pyramid Head represents James's self-punishment. a dark mirror of James stabbing Mary through layers of hallucination. After defeating the two pyramid heads, James confronts the final creature, embodying Mary's pain and rage. In that climactic fight, Maria or Mary challenge James about hating Mary. James admits, "It's true, I was tired." This catharsis allows James to acknowledge his negative feelings, a crucial step toward resolution. In the end, Silent Hill forces James to face himself. His journey is essentially one of confession and potential redemption. The nature of that redemption is revealed by which ending he achieves. In all serious endings, James defeats the final demon and then experiences a vision of Mary, either as forgiving or still hostile, which determines his fate. The endings. Silent Hill 2 offers 4 canonical endings for James, each illustrating a different psychological outcome. 2 additional endings, Dog and UFO, are comedic and not relevant to the emotional narrative. Which ending James receives depends on his actions and mindset during the game. Briefly, leave ending good. James confronts Maria, who now calls herself Mary, and realizes this isn't Mary. He resolves that it's time to end this nightmare. After defeating the final manifestation of Mary's pain, James finds himself in Mary's bedroom at home. There, Mary coughs weakly as he kneels by her bed. He tearfully apologizes, "I'm sorry," admitting how he hated and killed her so he could have his life back. But Mary gently rebukes this confession. If he truly hated her, he wouldn't look so sad. She tells him she wanted death and that he did the right thing by ending her suffering. Mary then places her hand in James's and, with love, delivers one final plea. Go on with your life. Suddenly, a graveyard appears. James steps through it, hand in hand with Laura. In this ending, James accepts reality. Mary forgives him through her letter and voice, urging James forward. He leaves Silent Hill determined to live in Mary's spirit, having acknowledged his guilt. This ending is unlocked by James focusing on survival, recovering health, and paying less heed to Maria. As one guide notes, James must act as if he wants to survive, while not showing too much focus or attention on Maria or the memory of Mary. Maria. Ending. In this ending, after defeating the final monster, James rejects the real Mary and turns to Maria. When a vision of Mary confronts him and then becomes the final boss, James again survives. At the end, he and Maria stand together by the lake, Rosewater Park. James, shaken, admits softly that the woman who spoke to him before was just something Maria? He then realizes he wants Maria, not Mary. I want you with me. Maria is surprised but takes his arm. James cheerfully tells her It's okay. I have you. Maria pulls out Mary's letter and hands it to James. As Mary's letter plays, the same one that summoned him, James and Maria walk away together. When Maria coughs, hinting that she too will die like Mary, James only laughs about her cough. In effect, James chooses to live in denial. He escapes with a substitute for Mary. Psychologically, this ending means James refuses to face Mary's death. Instead, he invests his love in Maria, pretending she's Mary reborn. Ironically, Maria is literally not Mary. Mary is gone. So James is still evading the truth. This ending occurs if James fostered a strong bond with Maria throughout the game. For example, by spending time near her, protecting her, and not obsessing over Mary's letter or photo. In Water ending, suicidal. Here James goes to the final confrontation with unresolved despair. After the final monster is defeated, the scene shifts abruptly to James picking up Mary's lifeless body from the bed. As she coughs one last time, James holds her hand and places it on his face. Then Mary dies. Overcome, James carries Mary out of the room. In voiceover, he says, "Now I understand. The real reason I came to this town." A car engine starts. James drives away, whispering, "Without you, Mary, I've got nothing." The sound of the car racing fades into the underwater view of Mary's letter being read. In the end, we see Mary's letter against a black screen, as James apparently drowns off screen. This ending implies James chose death to reunite with Mary, a final surrender to his guilt and grief. He was, as Silent Hill's lore indicates, already in a suicidal state. In fact, James's novelization explicitly notes he drove to Silent Hill intending to kill himself to join her in death. According to his psyche, this ending is triggered when James behaves recklessly and neglects his health, all while obsessively holding on to Mary's memory. Indeed, the game's guide explains that to get this ending, James must act in a suicidal or reckless manner, while also keeping a strong attachment to Mary. In the In Water ending, James has not forgiven himself. He cannot move on and instead seeks escape through death. Rebirth ending, ritual. In this hidden ending, accessible only after collecting special items, James attempts to defy death itself. After killing the final monster, James rows a boat across the lake toward a small, haunted island. As Mary's ghost lies on an altar, James kneels and whispers, "Mary, you look so peaceful. Forgive me for waking you." He confesses he can't live without you. Then James invokes the old gods. This town gives power to defy even death. He rows onto the island. We hear no more, only the sound of lapping water as the screen goes black. This ending suggests James tries a supernatural solution. He participates in an occult ritual, guided by Mary's letter instructions and the Toluca Lake cult, to resurrect Mary. Psychologically, Rebirth is James's final denial of reality. He refuses to either forgive himself or accept Mary's death. By seeking a supernatural rebirth from Mary, he once again evades the painful truth. The line, "power to defy even death," reflects his clinging to an impossible hope. In this ending, James neither moves on nor joins Mary in death. Instead, he remains trapped in delusion, forever intertwined with Silent Hill's dark forces. Notably, the game guide confirms that Rebirth requires collecting all ritual items, so it is a deliberate, thorough path. Each of these endings reflects James's inner resolution. In Leave, he finally confronts what he did, apologizes, and is told by Mary to go on living. In Water, he succumbs to despair and ends his life to rejoin Mary. In Maria, he abandons the truth, finding comfort in illusion. In Rebirth, he willfully rejects reality and tries to undo death itself with the occult. Each ending is serious and tragic, underlining themes of guilt, loss, and the need for forgiveness. As one analysis notes, the game's design encourages a good resolution, Leave, but also allows James to spiral depending on how the player nurtures or ignores Mary's memory. Mary's Letter, a final confession. The true depth of James's story is revealed in Mary's letter. During normal play, James carries only a short, haunting note. In my restless dreams, our special place, waiting for you. After the game, or via a collector's edition, players can read Mary's full letter, written just before her death. It is a heartbreaking confession. Mary writes that she has been waiting for James, waiting for you to come to see me. But you never do. She admits, I know I've done a terrible thing to you, something you'll never forgive me for, and expresses shame. I feel so pathetic and ugly, waiting for you. She acknowledges her suffering and asks for forgiveness, saying, I was so angry all the time. I struck out at everyone I loved most. Mary's voice breaks as she contemplates James's feelings. I'm afraid, James. I'm afraid you don't really want me to come home. She fears he hates or pities her and apologizes. I'm sorry about that. This moment is crucial. Mary is aware that James has suffered. When James murdered Mary in that hospital room, he believed he was acting out of love, ending her pain. Now Mary takes the burden upon herself, understanding. That's why I understand if you do hate me. Despite this, Mary's love for James remains unwavering. I'll always love you, she writes. She cherishes their years together and cannot forgive herself. By the end of the letter, Mary explicitly tells James to live on. I can't tell you to remember me, but I can't bear for you to forget me. You've given me so much, and I haven't been able to return a single thing. That's why I want you to live for yourself now. Mary's voice breaks again as she expresses pain and love. In other words, she is releasing him from guilt. Her final line, "You made me happy," affirms that, despite her suffering, their love was real and a gift. Mary's letter, read aloud against Silent Hill's mournful score, brings James's journey full circle. It explains everything he withheld, how Mary felt abandoned. Every day, all I can think about is how unfair it all is, how she fought despair, and how her love never died. In a way, Mary forgives James even more completely than he could ever wish for. She knew he sacrificed her life to end her pain, and she tells him he did the right thing and should go on with his life. While James had obsessed over the guilt of killing Mary, Mary's letter reframes it as an act of mercy and closes the loop on their story. In the leave ending, hope remains. Mary's final plea urges James to live, and he steps from the dark into the light with Laura by his side. In the other endings, tragedy is total. James either dies himself or is left holding an illusion. Silent Hill 2 is ultimately about how a man deals with unbearable guilt and loss. The psychology of James Sunderland is revealed not in one twist, but across the entire adventure, through fog-shrouded memories, through faces of friends and foes, and through Mary's letter that tells him, at last, how to truly be free. Like, comment, subscribe, and rest well. You've been listening to Lilith Sanctum. Until next time.